In with how are you doing this afternoon, Tony?
I am Geico commercial. And, I saw you calling me and I desperately wanted to answer the phone, but I was going 70 miles an hour in traffic.
Oh, no, you weren't.
Okay, I wasn't. I was going 55. I wasn't breaking the law.
Good for you, Tony.
My goodness. I am just today.
Even your microphone didn't believe
this
you.
It's going to be one of these days.
Here comes Dick. He's going to fix it.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I guess, did I twist it? To the rescue.
So you were going 55 and
Yes,
not breaking the law.
Yes, I wasn't breaking the law. And I finally made it here, but it was, I don't know what happened. The phone it slid off the console, and then by the time I found it, I don't know. It was like some sort of maybe it was the Holy Spirit. I don't know what it was, but it was nowhere near where it flew to.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
so you couldn't answer it?
It was like it had like legs. No, I don't. It wasn't even close to where it would have flown.
Skis. Oh,
yeah. It was like in the bag behind the seat on the side of the corner, and I'm like, okay, this is kind of spooky. Who's in the car with me?
And that sounds like my phone. It never just falls where I can just reach over and pick it up. It falls in the trunk. I don't know how that happens, but it's like the center of gravity, I think, is where I'm sitting, and there's the spin out, and it spins out to the furthest reach. Mm-hmm. Tony.
Okay, so what? I'm just kind of curious. What's on Cheryl's mind?
Well,
I need to know.
No, I've been thinking about all this tweeting and Roseanne Barr and
suicide
and
Anthony Bourdain.
I know,
and the little 20-year-old from the Disney Channel. He's a cute kid.
Oh wait, no, I didn't hear about him.
Yes,
who was
where's
that?
Kate Spade. I mean, she's our age. It's
I
crazy.
know.
And then Anthony Bourdain. And then my friend Fran told me that she read that probably the likely reason that he committed suicide was not because he was depressed, or maybe that was part
Bourdain?
of it. Yeah. She said she really dug into it. And then Jim confirmed it. Jim being, the inquiring mind that he is, said that he had been dating a girl named Asia, who was an actress from Italy who was like 42.
Oh, okay.
And that my friend Fran kind of, supported what he was telling me, but added more to it, saying that he had just given this girl he dated her own show on the same network that his Parts Unknown was on, and then he also had made her a producer something on his show, and he was just madly in love with her. And then and kind of putting this all together, she had deleted like 3 hours before his suicide a picture of her and a 28-year-old guy holding hands, and she was in a T-shirt that said some foul language on it. She was like a biker girl or something, even though she was an actress. Anyway, apparently we have come to the conclusion, even though it's not said anywhere, that she was probably cheating on him, and he just found out about it, and it was he was brokenhearted because everything was going for him.
Killed himself.
Yeah,
I mean, that is so sad to me. And some people just don't have any tolerance for suicide whatsoever. There was some discussion, and I just think it's so sad about Kate Spade. And he had this 13-year-old daughter.
And he had an 11-year-old daughter.
No way.
But these people talk about it. This is, kind of not that it's our show topic today, but these people had talked about suicide earlier in their lives in passing, as though kind of flippantly, instead of like, oh, no, I'd never do that. That's a mortal sin or whatever. Instead, it was an option. So
he discussed it when he was younger?
Yeah, and so did Kate Spade. Yeah, she did too.
So it's kind of an option.
Well, at least we don't know them, but that's what people had said.
Right.
When people are talking about suicide as sort of an option in life, that's not a good thing. I would be like, get to your church immediately. That's a mortal sin. Life is fleeting and passing. We're only here for a short time. And, why would you I think I've been that depressed at certain points where you think about it, but only in the most depressed circumstances where you feel like there's nowhere to turn. And then you have people like my best friend, Fran, and, and your children, and people that kind of tell you, they shake you out of it.
Right.
Because it's just what is that little phrase? It's a temporary solution, a permanent solution for a temporary problem.
Yes, that's exactly the phrase.
Yes, that was depressing me. So I've been praying for them.
Good for you. Me too, and the family. And if any one of our listeners is going through something like that, or knows someone who is, then
Facebook us.
Yeah, you can you can reach out to us at www.legalconnectionshow.com /contact. You can also Google the suicide hotline here in Montgomery County, and reach out to someone. Suicide is not a solution. It's like Tony was saying, it's a temporary, it's a permanent solution to a temporary
And
problem.
I will tell you, in my most depressed periods, and I'm not a depressed person, but
No.
everybody goes through periods in their life where they don't know where to turn.
Right.
Whether it's that you've let someone down, or you set really high expectations for yourself and you didn't make them, or someone left you that you thought that was the love of your life. It never fails that if you just can get up the next morning. And I'm not talking about people that are clinically depressed, because that's something else altogether. But
no, they need help.
You can get out of that too, though.
Right.
And things always get better. They do get better.
Yes.
And
absolutely.
it's God has control. God has a plan.
Well, and what we're going to be talking about next week is defamation. And what else is on my mind is the Roseanne Barr tweet. I know that's not as current as the rash of suicide.
I beat you.
Well, it's current. I thought about covering something like that, but I couldn't think of a body of law that suicide might, toward
sort of more what is it? The moral laws.
Well, wills. We had been talking about wills, but good night. That's just so sad. But on a lighter note, which is kind of strange that this would even be a lighter note, is the tweeting and the defamation. And what is that? We're going to talk about that next week.
Our next week's show, defamation and the First Amendment rights, cover such a broad spectrum of, people that are just sort of being mean and defamation. If you're a celebrity and you set yourself up for it, are truly in the sense where somebody is out to get vindication and defaming you intentionally.
Right.
And it's just a whole body of law that requires that we have probably 2 shows on it. It's pretty significant. We have a lot of case law on it. I've done quite a few defamation cases representing people and what the outcomes are and that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. But, Roseanne Barr just briefly, made a comment about Valerie Jarrett. I believe she was Obama's senior.
Yeah, I didn't know who that person was.
Advisor. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm not really zoned in, when Obama was president, we just kind of hunkered down.
Mm-hmm.
And said that to me, it's not defamation. She shouldn't have said it, and we got the community backlash.
Well, there's a defense. I don't think it was defamation either. There's many defenses to it, and a sarcasm is not defamation.
No,
but see, Roseanne, who knows what Roseanne Barr was really? It's kind of hard for her to defend. She's a comedian, so she could just say it was part of her gig.
Well, she said that she blamed it on Ambien, that she had taken Ambien and was trying to go to sleep.
Ambien defense.
That was her defense.
I have more people with DWIs that have the Ambien defense.
It's really?
Oh, please, don't give me that one. I don't want to hear, because I don't want to be on the road with somebody with the Ambien defense. If you're taking Ambien, please do not tweet and please do not drive.
That's right.
That should be the 2.
Go home and go to bed. Or be home when you take Ambien. How about that?
And someone take your phone away.
Yes, no kidding. But anyway, we're going to talk about that next week. But this week, we're going to be talking about temporary orders.
Yes. And I just want to add one other little thing. We're attorneys. And before every case, even the most mundane case, the cases that you're going to win, I still get nervous, really nervous. It's kind of like when I don't know which phobia it is, but when you're afraid to talk in front of people, that would be me. Even talking to you right now, it's comfortable because we're just in the station and there's not a lot of people around and I know you. But in public and in public speaking, I freeze. And all the way back to elementary school, I would sweat. I would be panicky, in the 3rd and 4th grade. If it was my turn to read, the next, line or whatever, if we were going down the row of people reading
or whatever. Mm-hmm.
And it would scare me to death to do anything where I stood up and spoke.
Really?
And even up into the time after I was practicing law, when they'd call the docket, I would freeze. And I thought my clients are going to think I'm crazy, but what if I fall when I stand up? And I would just panic. And it's taken me a long time to get over that.
Really?
And, yeah.
Are you over it?
I think it's because I've tried to train myself that other people are afraid too. Yeah. And if I keep looking at it from the perspective that I have to do my job, and my job is to represent people and get past it. Then once I get past that initial a fear of whatever it is, I don't know what the fear is. The fear is falling over, or fear of making a fool of myself, or saying the wrong thing, or choking and falling over. I don't know what the fear is.
I can see you.
Yeah, I have no idea what it is. But I I tend to do fine. And usually my clients have no idea that I'm like got sweaty palms and stuff because it's sort of.
I've seen you speak in public and no one
but
has any
internally
idea.
it's something I've had to fight all my life and it can be done. But I usually pray really hard before I do every case, before I prepare for it, during. I'll just be really like, just God, give me the strength to get through this and give me the wisdom and the perseverance to say the right things and listen and that kind of thing. And I was praying the other day about another case that was coming up, and this is crazy. And I don't know if I told you this because I talked to you quite a bit, but that inner voice told me that the answer to what I needed to hear for this next hearing was in Proverbs. If that's not weird, and I know you've read Proverbs, right?
I sure have.
I have not read Proverbs. I'll be the first to say. And Proverbs to me is like fortune cookies. And everything about it was like, so we need to have a show one day where we say, is it Kanye West, Proverbs, or fortune cookie if I read something? Because they all sound alike to me.
Okay.
So I was just going to say, I didn't know, and I was just going to throw this out here, but the answer was in Proverbs. It was kind of weird. They're little snippets. They're like little Reader's Digest.
Right.
Proverbs and what do you know about Proverbs? Just quickly. So we're not really focused on this.
Gosh, I don't think I could talk about that quickly. I mean, Proverbs is the little snippets of wisdom from Solomon. And did
God give it to him?
Well, he says that he learned
angel?
some of it from his mother, but I think they're the words of God. They're the words of wisdom. I have a teaching called The Women of Wisdom, and it's on Proverbs 31, the Proverbs 31 woman. So what about Proverbs?
Well, just that, like they're saying, I would say this.
Yeah.
That if you're having trouble with your children or a problem that you've run into, these are Proverbs has got little moral teachings and gives you direction.
They're words of wisdom.
They're words of wisdom, and they're real
life.
Short. And so if people are having a bad time out there, say Anthony Bourdain or Bourdain or whatever his name, what was his name?
Bourdain.
Bourdain.
Is how I say it.
Yeah, that's probably right. I would say that just pick a Bible up and go to Proverbs.
Absolutely,
or
that is great advice.
And like just for example, one of them is really simple and they're so logical. If you are weak in a crisis, you are weak indeed. So get strong. That's just the proverb. This is what Solomon says. If you're weak in a crisis, then you're a weak person. You need to pick up and go be strong during a crisis. Get that adrenaline going. Being wise is better than being strong. Yes, knowledge is more important than strength. After all, you must make careful plans before you fight a battle. And more good advice you get, the more likely you are to win. So Proverbs kind of gives you a little direction. It gives you a roadmap. I mean, what great advice is that? And, the different ones that I was looking at was never, because, I do a lot of property suits. And this one was like, this proverb was literally, I opened up to this one, never move an old property line that your ancestors established. I love that one. And another one is never move an old property line or take over land owned by orphans. The Lord is the powerful defender, and he will argue the case against you, their case against you. I mean, all of this is about, it goes toward
wisdom for living.
The wisdom that I needed was right here, and I'm going to use it. So people go to Proverbs.
Go to Proverbs, absolutely. And what does that have to do with our temporary orders?
It didn't.
Oh, okay. I thought that you were leading into something. But
well, no. I mean, it does. It has within temporary orders. It also talks about in Proverbs your children and how you should raise them, and which goes toward in temporary orders. What we're going to do today in this the rest of the segment is, I don't think a lot of people know that haven't been divorced before what temporary orders are with regard to child custody cases. So we're going to go over that. Right.
That's great. Okay. Well, first we're going to go to break, but I just want to tell you guys, you can call us at 281-529-5862 and leave us a voice message, and we will get back to you and maybe even answer your question on the air. We'll be right back after the break.
Remember to download the Lone Star Community Radio app from your Google Play Apple Store. Bring Montgomery County's community radio with you anywhere with your smartphone or tablet. If you are in the Conroe area, tune in on FM 104.5, 106.1. If you are on your computer, bookmark irlonestar.com as your internet radio station. Lone Star Community Radio, broadcasting 24/7 from the heart of downtown Conroe, Texas.
For those of you who like your partners, your gumbo, and your music salty, well, we're here to help with the music. Julian Shea here, host of Lone Star Country Nights Thursday, your weekly dose of roots and Americana and all the music that makes this part of the country special. We stir in Western swing, honky-tonk, Zydeco, Texas blues, outlaw country, and put a pinch of red dirt, and then we smoke it over a slow fire. Then listen to the results Thursday nights on Conroe's 104.5 and 106.1 and worldwide at irlonestar.com.
Welcome back to the Legal Connection Show with Tony and Cheryl. Tony and I are here today, and we are talking about temporary orders. And what temporary orders are is that when people file for divorce and there are children involved, it's typically when there are children involved. Usually if there are no children, you don't need a lot of temporary orders. But except for don't spend the community funds and don't sell my stuff and don't get involved in lawsuits without telling me and all that kind of stuff. But when children are involved, you've got custody issues and temporary orders. And so the court will order orders that last for the duration of the suit, the divorce suit, until the final decree is entered. And then they enter permanent orders that have to do with child custody. So today we're talking about temporary orders.
Yes. And so the question is, and I think you kind of explained this to us, but I'm going to see if you can answer your own question. What is a temporary orders hearing?
Yeah, it's where the parties show up and they go before the judge, and the judge will issue the times that each party will have custody of the children and how long that will be. A standard possession order is like party A will have primary custody of the children, and party B will have the children the first, third, and fifth weekends of each month.
Well, that's the temporary. I guess you're also you're addressing actually orders that are could be the temporary restraining order. The temporary orders are the permanent orders, because
true.
And I mean, the big scheme of things, everything is temporary, right? I mean, the orders that are issued for your child custody case could be temporary in the sense that when your kid turns 18 or graduates from high school, it's over. So it's temporary. And I will give just an example of a case that I did with temporary orders.
Mm-hmm.
We entered into I guess it was a child custody battle, and the attorney's fees were so high for this couple that they could no longer keep fighting. And I think just as a little background without going into all the legal stuff, but basically what happens is, and you don't know this because you have not been divorced, and I truly did not experience this personally with my divorces because I had amicable divorces. So everything was agreed to. And as all mediators say, and you've been a mediator, right? When you mediate.
Absolutely.
That it's better to, I think Lincoln also said this too, it's better if the two parties can make an agreement amongst themselves as opposed to having the judge do it for them, because the ultimate winners in the case are the attorneys, because the attorneys and the amicuses and the ad litems and all the people that are involved in it are basically taking your pool of funds that you've earned all your life, because it's not unfair that they do that.
They're working
people into your life, and now that your problem is now their problem, and the really good ones charge a lot of money for your problem to be their problem, and there's no guarantee what the outcome is going to be either, because they don't have any control over the facts that you've presented them with.
Right.
So, but if they're really good and you've got fair and just attorneys helping you work with it with the case, then maybe you won't come out completely destitute at the end and still not be happy with the final result. So try to work it out on your own. Well, first, try to make the marriage work if possible.
Right.
Or, work out some kind of, if you can't do that, then try to work amicably with the parents of your children. And if you can't do that, then that's what we're here for today. We're going to try to guide you through this. And this goes for people who have children, and it could also be for people that are grandparents and their children have children, or just people. It could be for anybody that's in the situation where they could help. We're going to try to help them today. Now, what happens in a divorce situation, then I'll go into my little example, is for people that don't understand the way this works, is when somebody files for divorce or if they file for child custody, the petition is filed, and the very first thing that's filed with the petition is a part of the petition. It's called a temporary restraining order, and it's many times it's ex parte. Some of the courts in Montgomery County and Harris County don't like ex parte temporary restraining orders, and this is ex parte means the other person is not even involved in it. This petition can be filed, and you don't even know it's been filed, and it asks for all these things. There's like 26 different things that are in the standard temporary restraining order, like you can't spend money that's in the joint account. You can't. There's a lot of things that you can't do that just keep everything status quo as a picture of what it looked like when it was filed. The bad thing is the person filing it may not be a very nice person, and they're stopping you from doing something, and you're not even aware of it. Typically, the temporary restraining order doesn't become into effect until you're served with it, though. But the judge will sign it once the petition is signed. The judge will sign the temporary restraining order at the time that it's kind of routed through the court. And
once the petition is in,
and these petitions are not on notice to the public for 30 days. So because it's kept confidential, because sometimes men get upset or women get upset when they see that their partner's trying to divorce them.
Right.
So until they're served, it's not known to anybody. You cannot see it. Only the person filing it and their attorney knows about it. And I guess and the clerk before it becomes public knowledge. And even when it's filed, even when they find out, the attorney on the other side can't access it without special passwords and accesses. It's just kind of crazy. But that you would think it was that confidential, but it is. Well, what happens is the temporary restraining order signed by the judge puts everything on hold. Once you're served and you know about it, there's a lot of things that you cannot do that are in that order, and you never had any say in the matter. Okay.
Yes.
Then within that temporary restraining order, the judge has set a temporary orders hearing date, because generally those go hand in hand. The TRO is the first thing that's signed, and it's signed ex parte to kind of keep everything safe. It's a safety measure. And then there is a temporary orders hearing date set by the court. And that's when everybody has to start preparing to go to court to start fighting to make the temporary restraining order a permanent order. But they're the orders that are set before the final decision, after the real facts are fought out before jury. There's a fact issue, and Texas is one of the few states, I think 3 in the nation, that allows you to have a jury on fact issues. But it's
divorce.
It is not common in divorce to have a jury in most of the nation. And so what happens is you set this temporary orders hearing, and it's a big deal. It's not something that you should kind of, I'm just going to go just for temporary orders. Generally, I don't want to say generally because there's nothing general about a divorce, but many times the temporary orders hearing sets the pace for the rest of the divorce proceeding. If you lose your temporary orders hearing, that's a bad thing. And a lot of people put most of their effort and their money into the temporary orders hearing, and they'll get them reset. You'll get the temporary restraining order extended for another 21 days until they have time to get witnesses and what have you, because both parties want what they want. It's not amicable. Now, that being said, if the temporary restraining order, if it's set, if there's a hearing set, and the other party receives this notice of a hearing and gets an attorney and realizes, hey, I'm not in disagreement. I'm in total agreement with everything that the other side wants. Great. Don't go to the hearing, pass the hearing, set out your own agreed temporary orders, and go forward. But here's the caveat to that. If you enter agreed temporary orders, now you've got an order before the court, and orders before the court are hard to change. There's certain burden that has to be met. And it could be that you entered the agreed temporary orders because at the time you didn't have money to hire an attorney. At the time you thought your partner was going to be reasonable, but things changed.
You thought the judge was going to be mad at you if you didn't agree.
For whatever number of reasons, you entered agreed temporary orders because you may have been persuaded by your attorney that this is what you can afford.
Or you were just tired of the whole deal.
I think that many people that I've entered agreed temporary orders with, they honestly believe that the partner that they actually procreated with was going to be reasonable with them.
Right.
And they didn't think that things were going to get worse than they were.
Right.
But in my experience, things they generally do get worse than the way they were. If you're dealing with irrationality, and that is a very common trait, even with the most rational people are not themselves during a divorce and a child custody battle.
Well, this is a little off topic, but I want to know what you think about, I've heard several times people say that divorce attorneys are the worst. divorce attorneys bring out the worst in people.
It's the attorney's fault.
Right. So what's your response to that?
Because it's like blaming, what are all the little sayings where you can just blame anybody but yourself?
Scapegoats. Yeah.
I can't even think of the proverb right now where you would say, it would be, okay, and I guess maybe it's not politically correct, but it's always Bush's fault. Obama would say it's Bush's fault. And then, when Trump says it's Obama's fault, I'm not in total disagreement with that. So I have to go back to Obama.
Right.
I think that Trump is right.
Yeah.
But,
well, you and I have talked about that before. People are at their worst.
Yeah, people are
in divorce or at their worst.
They're in a lawsuit with the person
that
they trusted, that they had sex with,
it's terrible.
That there's a complete breach of the relationship in so many ways, because unless both people agree, and that's so seldom that both people agree they need a divorce.
Yeah.
People got together and they expected happily ever after, and it didn't happen. And I know that the people that are dealing with a divorce, they are not themselves.
No.
They are completely insane during this period. You almost, as an attorney, you have to see this and forgive them.
Yes.
Not that you need to forgive anybody, but that would be God doing that, or Jesus. But you have to get past it and understand that they are asking idiotic questions for the most part. That's not all my clients, but I would say 95% of my clients in a divorce situation are tense. They are turning to substance abuse. Not 90% do that, but they're looking
stress
for
relief. They drink
peace.
too much, right?
Their lives are gone. What they had anticipated is gone, and
they're angry and hurt.
They want to make it better. They want to make it go back to the way it was. Or the one that wants to leave wants them to leave them alone,
right?
Or they start stalking, and it's just insanity,
right?
Total insanity. And so, as an attorney, you have to see that. And the problem is you have to also understand people that when you hire an attorney and you're this sort of a chaotic state, and they usually don't have much money because one party or the other has taken all the money or frozen it,
I know.
Then you have to sort of take a step back. Do not blame your attorney if you're in a bad situation. I love one attorney that I worked with before. He always said, we're like plumbers. We're dealing with somebody else's crap all the time.
That's true.
And it's just what it is.
It is. Well, I know that was a little off topic, but I wanted to hear your thoughts on that.
Okay,
so, but temporary orders hearing.
Temporary orders. How soon does a temporary orders hearing occur in a case? Typically, temporary orders hearings are held within 2 weeks of filing the suit. If a temporary restraining order has been requested by a party, just as I was telling you before, they kind of go hand in hand. Remember, people.
And they've always been requested by a party, really, right?
Well, no, because I have so many divorces where they don't want to do a temporary restraining order, orders. Even with kids, they're like, I don't want to go there. I just want to file for divorce. And I don't need that right now because we're working it out on our own. We've got the kids are happy. An amicable divorce, you don't have to have temporary orders. Okay. They were expensive. I say, as an attorney, don't go there. Because, and I think even the judges have seen it all. They're frustrated by it. They just don't. They roll their eyes because they've seen it over and over again. They're hearing it, and I think they're probably, and this is maybe bad to say, but they're almost numb to it. They're hearing the same arguments over and over.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's really, really serious though, and like there's physical violence involved,
right?
And the judges aren't seeing it because it's not out to the court as it should be because it's being downplayed. So if there's physical violence, call 911, get out.
Right.
Just get out.
Absolutely.
Rather than stick around and say,
and make sure you tell your attorney.
I think people tell their attorney. The problem is the attorney also, you have to make sure that the attorney understands every fact. So attorneys to listen to your clients, don't roll your eyes and say, I've heard this before. More than likely, you're the I don't want to get kind of, there's so many different scenarios. Attorneys just listen to the facts and glean through when there's something really serious and if you needed to advise your client to get out. There are many situations where the woman or the man need to leave the situation immediately and find shelter. And I'm not being just a crazy attorney saying that.
Right.
People get crazy during divorce. People that never, ever were violent will suddenly become violent. And because they don't want to lose what they had.
Yeah.
They can't believe this is happening.
Right.
The love of their life is cheating on them and they never saw it coming. I think that may have been sort of a segue, kind of going backwards from Anthony Bourdain. He didn't get violent. He killed himself. That's violent in itself.
It is.
And that may not be the reason, but it sure looks that way to me.
Really? Mm.
So,
Okay,
anyway.
so 2 weeks after it's filed with the court, you'll have a hearing for temporary orders.
Yes, and that kind of segues into what is the difference between a temporary order and a protective order. A protective order is an order that provides protection for a person after the court determines family violence has occurred and is likely to occur again in the future. And that's really scary too, because what if it hasn't occurred yet, but you think it's going to occur? Then you can't get a protective order. It has to have occurred. Don't wait to need a protective order. Just get out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And that's where the temporary orders fill that gap too.
Yeah.
You're ordered not to do those things.
Okay. The protective order is different from a temporary order in that if a person violates protective order, law enforcement may immediately take that person into custody.
Right.
So the good thing about a protective order is it's because it's happened before,
Mm-hmm.
they can get into custody.
And likely to happen again, you can get this order.
But
And then
you have these people that just go right to the brink of not hitting you, but just scaring you to death and threatening and harassing you.
well, see, that's violence. And that's under the protective order
It
statute.
should be. It should be.
It is, though. It is. There's a whole section on what intimidation, fear and intimidation is
Harassment.
about. Yeah, I can't remember the language, but I remember reading it.
Okay, so what is decided at a temporary orders hearing? I don't know how much time we have to cover before.
We're going to take a break here in about a minute and a half.
Okay, so I'll go over there. What is decided at a temporary orders hearing? That's what you were talking about before, and I'd asked you.
Right.
And you were talking about, you just didn't tell our listeners what specifically happens in temporary orders as opposed to all the orders, because they're so similar. What is the ultimate resolution and what happens in the temporary orders case hearing, as you know, because you've done a gazillion of them, is that it's the same issues being addressed, but one's permanent and one's temporary. And I can't emphasize enough how important it is to win that temporary orders hearing. But I can't emphasize enough also that if you enter the agreed order, it's so hard to change.
Right.
And it's expensive too. So don't just flippantly enter into agreed orders.
No.
Well, you better think twice about that and really sit down with both sides. And mediation is not a bad thing.
Right.
But it may be that you're afraid of mediation. And remember also in mediation that you don't have to settle at mediation, but it's good to have a third party intermediary to kind of, voice both sides.
Absolutely.
And you don't have to go to a paid mediator. In Montgomery County and Harris County, they have the DRC and the DRO, where you can get a free mediator as a public service, just somebody as a sounding board to get in there. And you don't have to be in the same room if you're afraid. So
That's right. That's right. Okay. We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back after the break. Send us your questions at questions@legalconnectionshow.com. And we'll try and answer them on the air. We'll be right back.
Listen in Mondays at noon to hear Conroe news from local nonprofits, businesses, upcoming events, Conroe Park events, news stories, and information that matters to you with your host, Margie Taylor of Taylorized PR. For more information about being a guest, visit irlonestar.com/Conroe Culture.
Hispanic Chamber Connections with Dr. Carlos Sanchez, president of the Woodlands Conroe Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, featuring event announcements, member highlights, and more. Tuesdays at 1 p.m., broadcasting from the heart of Conroe, Texas on irlonestar.com and Conroe's FM 104.5, 106.1.
Our talk shows and music shows are looking for sponsors. Want to expand your brand awareness? Reach the hyper-local audience in Montgomery County? Lone Star Community Radio sponsorships accomplish this. Want to see our stats and rates? Check out irlonestar.com/sponsor for more information. Or call in and leave us a message at 936-647-3776 with your questions. Get seen on TV, YouTube, and heard on our podcast, FM, and internet radio. Support your local radio station with Lone Star Community Radio.
Welcome back to the Legal Connection Show with Tony and Cheryl. Today, Tony and I are talking about temporary orders. But I want to let our listeners know that you can download our podcast on Wednesdays from irlonestar.com. You can get us on iTunes and Google Play. And we're working on having those podcasts put on our Facebook page and our website as well. Our website is legalconnectionshow.com. So, Tony, you've got a case for us about temporary orders. Now, you were saying that once you've agreed to temporary orders, it's difficult to get back in there and change those temporary orders.
Well, I don't want to say difficult because that's going to make people not want to even try to, because it's not impossible. But, as we've discussed before, we discussed a lot of our cases, not the facts of the case, but sort of because there's a lot of attorney-client privilege, but just the kind of the procedural part of it. If you had agreed to temporary orders, and temporary orders are just that, they are the orders that are entered during the pendency of the lawsuit. They were never meant to be something that was going to be, for the entire pendency till the kid turns 18 or is out of college or whatever the case may be, or is emancipated or what have you. They were just, it was just what was going to happen until it was determined what the permanent temporary orders until they're 18, what should happen during the case to keep the status quo. And in the best interest of the child, there's all the little rules that you go by. And basically, even in the case I was looking at, the case law and family law, the burdens that the public policy is pretty much the same. And it makes a lot of sense. The legislature's, kind of went about it the right way.
Mm-hmm.
The public policy is to ensure that the children will have frequent and continuing contact with the parents who has shown the ability to act in the child's best interest. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you've got, them trying to kidnap the child because to be vindictive or something, of course, that's not going to work. Or if you're letting them, if they're eating cotton candy at night just because they're trying to bribe them to stay with them so they don't have to pay child support, that's not in their best interest. So all those things kick in and the judges and the jury can see right through it. People know when, even in Proverbs, and that would have been a good segue for it, even Solomon said, spank your kids. That would be good for them instead of them running out in the street and, killing themselves. You have to teach them when they're in harm's way because they don't know, because they're like little puppies, right? The public policy is to provide a safe and stable and nonviolent environment for the child. And as sad as it is, violence goes hand in hand. A lot of times when there's discord in a relationship, people want to react. They want to react because it's just an instinctive thing.
Or whether they want to or not, they just do.
They do. We know that because the nicest people in the world suddenly, and we represent them all the time in assault cases, out of nowhere, and this happens so much, where young teenage and young parents find out that the other side is, or they suspect that they might be cheating and they want to see their phone. Never fails. If the other side says, no, it's none of your business because I'm not doing anything, they try to get the phone and then it turns into a fight and the police are called, many cases, and it turns into a family assault and then and one thing leads to another. So don't react. People just walk away. Please don't ask to see your spouse's or your girlfriend's phone. And except for that doesn't apply to Jim. Jim, if I ask to see your phone at all times,
turn it over
to me with the password. And every time he's done that, it's always, there's never been anything on it. And to the point where I'm so bored with it, I'm bored to tears and I fall asleep. He does have some funny little memes and stuff on there. They encourage parents to share in the rights and the duties of raising their child after the parents have separated or dissolved their marriage. Okay. Now, that being said, a couple of things happen. You go to the temporary orders hearing, and let's say you don't agree. I'm going to give a different example. You don't agree, and you go to the hearing, and you weren't prepared because you didn't put a lot of effort into it because you didn't think it was going to be a big deal. You go in, and you weren't prepared, and the other side wins what they asked for, which is custody kids or more visitation that you wanted, and you were the better parent. Now you're really frustrated. This person that never cared about watching the kids before, they were never there. Their parents are the only one watching them. They're bringing in, their whatever the case may be. They didn't care about the kids. They're using them as a tool. And suddenly they've got a lot more custody or they've got, they've got the primary custody. You're incensed because you want to blame your attorney, and maybe not be your attorney's fault. Maybe you didn't give enough facts to really fight this, or maybe your witnesses didn't show up, or you didn't give them the right, whatever the case may be, you weren't prepared. All is not lost, people. Okay. If your hearing is before an associate judge in the court, because the other side didn't object, or maybe that's the only one that was available, you can appeal that within 3 days and have a whole do-over, de novo. And you can set it so this time you're ready. So I say if you're not quite ready and the other side hasn't objected, have your hearing before the associate judge in the family court, because you've got 3 days to appeal and it's a whole new do-over, and it's a great thing. Not a whole lot more of expense to be ready for it. Okay.
Right.
And then you go, but now you're going to have a real trial. And once the trial is done because you have not agreed in front of the court, it's serious because the status quo in these courts, if the kids end up wherever they end up for, 3 or 4, 2 months, 2 years, however long it lasts before you go to trial, that's stability for those kids. And if all things are going well because the other parent is behaving for the first time in the entire relationship, that may be where the kids stay. So the temporary orders hearing are very, very important. Don't take them lightly. Take them very seriously.
Right.
Now, if you enter agreed orders because you're like, okay, well, I don't want to go to the temporary orders hearing. I don't know how it's going to go. I like the benefit of knowing the known as opposed to the unknown. And, you'll save money because your attorney's not going to be there the whole day or for 2 or 3 days or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
You enter agreed temporary orders. Okay. They're not easy to change because okay, let me go back. There's not a lot of cases. There's not a lot of case law on changing agreed temporary orders because people don't really want to go to the expense. Or once they've agreed, they figure they can work it out on their own because their attorneys are charging them so much. That's also a reason not to want to go back to court again and work it out with your spouse, particularly if you've gotten temporary orders where one side or the other has to pay the attorney's fees because one is the breadwinner. That doesn't happen a lot, but when it does, that also is another factor in not having to actually go through a full-blown hearing. Plus, when you go on to a temporary orders hearing, it's strenuous and it makes, I think, it can be twofold. Sometimes when the person sees their spouse up there crying and it gets very emotional, they don't want to put them through that again if they actually have a heart. Most of my opposing counsel's clients have mechanical pumps for hearts and they don't care.
Right.
And they relish seeing the other side cry. It's a sign of weakness. So it's tough. And your attorney has to toughen you up. And that's when the Bible comes in handy. Go pray before you go in and be weak. That was one of the Proverbs I read. Don't be weak. Get in there and fight. Okay. Now, agree temporary orders. If you've got to fight those, it used to be that, or at least the rules on changing orders, whether they're agreed temporary orders or any orders, okay, if the permanent orders until the kid turns 18, generally, if there's a material change in circumstances within 1 year of the order, even if it's been a trial, you can go in and you can ask for orders. That's in the statute, the Texas Family Code, right? But you can't go back and change those orders before within a year unless there's been a material change. After 3 years, though, you can just go back in and say, I want a second look. Let's go back in. I want to change the orders. I mean, any number of things that you want to change for. But it's a different, the burden is different from 1 year to 3 years. 3 years, you can pretty much go in there and just ask for the order to be changed. 1 year, there's got to be, and I'm not looking at the exact wording to it.
I think it's a material or substantial change in circumstance.
It says that it's the property code in here. It's Texas property code. The circumstance of the parties, including the child, had so materially and substantially changed since the entry of the order that the retention of whatever the changes that you're asking for, and it's usually the managing conservatorship or the primary conservator, would be so injurious to the welfare of the child and that they need to change it. Okay. So it has to be a big change in circumstance. Agreed orders are different though. Who knew? In Ray Casanova, which was a case out of Dallas in 2014. And again, this isn't, if they have to hit the appellate level for them to even show up in these. But the burden is that it has to be, I had it checked off here because it was so different because I had so people that I've had to go to go to court on this. The child required, let me read this. It's the welfare and safety of the child. And
so that's the burden. Well, listen, Tony, we're out of time today. I know, but I think that we need to talk about this next week instead of the defamation.
Let me just read this real quick. Any modifications of temporary orders are to be measured, namely whether the temporary orders are for the safety and welfare of the child. Safety and welfare override everything. If you can't prove safety and welfare, you will not get a change in the agreed temporary order.
Okay. Listen next week, 12 to 1 p.m. on Tuesdays, 104.5. 106.1, irlonestar.com.
And serve God.